Welcome back to Conscious Not Crazy. I'm Kori, your host, and grateful as always to be here. And I have quite a few episodes up now. And although I focus on a specific topic each episode, I do sometimes jump around and throw different things in. So I thought it would be a great time to kind of pull it all together and really talk about how to create a parenting toolbox, like break it down, keep it simple. Because I know when you try these things on, I know how it felt for me when I started down this journey or this process of discovering the why behind behavior and understanding that there are things I can consciously do, hence conscious not crazy, to be the best parent I can be. And again, not perfect, just better. I say this all the time, just be better than yesterday. And don't give up better for perfect. Don't not do something. I think the biggest mistake people make is they do nothing because they don't feel like they can do it perfectly. And this is something that I've personally had to work on and overcome. Being a parent has made me a better person. Has it made me a perfect person? Absolutely not. I'll never be perfect. I'm learning and growing, and I will be till the day I die. And that is what I want to model for my kids. I don't have to be perfect. I have to show up and I have to do my best. And sometimes my best is going to suck. And that's okay. It's okay for them to see that too, because it shows them that you're human. It shows them that they don't have to be perfect. Because sometimes we have pretty high expectations for ourselves. But getting back to my point, I just thought it would be nice to kind of break down what I've been sharing. And if you've been liking what I've been sharing, please, on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on, one, you can share it with somebody else. All parents, I think, feel alone at times and frustrated. So if you know any parent out there that you think could benefit from this content, please share it. And or feel free to share it on your social media, and then like and follow. Just hit the little like button on the platform you're listening to and like and follow. And I have a website coming out soon because I do consulting and public speaking. And because my goal is to reach more parents, because I have so much empathy on just behavior with people in general, and how hard it is to parent and how hard it is to manage all of the things that are involved with parenting and do all of the necessary tasks that we need to do on a daily basis, groceries, laundry. Many of you have jobs, as do I. So it's just a lot and it becomes overwhelming. So how do we stay sane? How do we stay conscious? How do we stay present and be the best parent we can be and not be so hard on ourselves? Because you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes, and mistakes are how we learn. And all we can do is be better than yesterday. So things we've talked about, this parenting toolbox, I'm going to break it down into a few simple bullet points, we'll say, just to help you conceptualize what are the specific things you can focus on if you want to implement some of the things I'm talking about. Like, where would I start? How did I start because I always tell my parents when they start coming to my classes or to hear me speak, just try one new thing. Don't focus on being at the point I'm at, and I'm still not there. Like, it will forever be a work in progress, and my kids are forever growing and changing, and the challenges change. So we get to navigate and learn new things. But there's some simple, basic concepts that apply to all human behavior. So it doesn't matter whether you're dealing with a toddler, an elementary school kid, a middle school kid, a high school kid. It does not matter, or an adult, or a boss, or a family member. The things I talk about will apply, and they're applicable to every relationship in your life. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Going through this process has helped me in so many relationships in my own life. It's helped me understand boundaries, empathy, and how to not take things personal, because other people's behavior is neither our responsibility or our fault. So we can't own anyone else's reaction. We can only control how we react to a situation. And that's a lesson I want my kids to have, because things are going to come up, challenges are going to arise. And I want them to have their toolbox on how to navigate that. And the best way for me to help my kids build their toolbox is to build my own. And it's how I interact and care for them. And I would say, having done this since my kids were 2 and 4, we've come a long way. It was rocky. It was rough when in the beginning. It's not easy. So I'm not going to lie to you and say it is, because you're trying to retrain your own brain and rewire pathways in your own brain while supporting these little people in your life, or not so little people in my case. It's not easy, but it does work. You will feel better. And by the time, if you have younger kids, by the time they get to my kids' age, it will make navigating those teenage years much easier. My kids tell me just about everything, which is great because I don't shame and punish them. We talk about consequences. We anticipate problems. So that is what's important. You want them to feel comfortable that they come and talk to you. What you don't want to do is shame and punish and blame and make them feel bad for mistakes and poor choices. Will there be consequences for poor choices? Absolutely. That's not what I'm saying. There will be consequences, but making them feel bad or shameful or fearful of making a mistake will not open the door for them to come to you when something does happen. And I would think, as a parent, you would want your child to be able to come to you when they get themselves in a tough spot, so we can help support and navigate them out of that, because we have more life skills, we have more life experience, and we're going to be better equipped to guide them along that path, whatever that may be. And I want you to think about what your relationship was like. Did you feel comfortable going to your parents? Did you feel comfortable calling them from a party if you drank too much? Did you feel comfortable if you broke something in the house, running and showing them or telling them and being truthful about it? So think about what it felt like for you. I think that's when this journey started for me. I would go back and kind of reevaluate, well, how did I feel as a kid? Because if I tap into how I felt as a child in that parent-child dynamic, I had more empathy for what my child might be feeling. So we're going to dive into this toolbox. So out of all the things we've talked about, the most important, the number one thing you have to work on to make any of this work is composure. And composure is not being reactive and going to your own fight or flight. So we've talked about, you have your cognitive processing centers of your brain, your emotional state, and your fight or flight, which is all there for valid purpose, right? We have to have all those parts of our brain. It's what keeps us alive when danger, like, back when there were hunters and gatherers and they were trying to hunt for food, but their fight or flight kept them safe from like a lion eating them. So that's why it's there. It looks a little different for us today, but those parts of our brain are definitely important. But how do we keep composed when we feel ourselves in that emotional state, and then we don't like a behavior we're seeing and we immediately want to go to fight or flight and make it stop? How do we stay composed? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. I would say just pause, do nothing. I just tell parents, even if you don't know what to say or do, if you're feeling triggered, walk away. Walk away, give yourself time, think, process. That will help to start rewiring those pathways in your brain. So you need to stop the natural reaction to change your reaction, because you're going to be triggered to do the same thing you've always done, or what was done with you when you were a kid. That's just science. And that's normal. You're not a bad person for reacting or spanking or doing whatever it is you're doing or yelling, because that's probably how you were raised and that's what you know. And our beliefs dictate our behavior. So if your belief and we'll call them limiting beliefs, your limiting belief is, that's disrespectful, they're doing this thing to me, they can't talk to me like that, I'm an adult. Your limiting belief is that the child's behavior is intentionally hurtful or disrespectful towards you. And that's what I want to do, is get you to focus on, get you to see past the behavior. I love the iceberg theory. I've talked about this before. So you have an iceberg, right? We see the tip of the iceberg. That's what we see. See the disrespect, whatever the child's doing, saying maybe they're hitting, maybe they've bitten a child. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're a teenager telling you they hate you, you're stupid, I don't want to live with you anymore. My kids have said it all to me. Or they just are being disrespectful and talking back, or their tone's not awesome. It could be anything. That's the tip of the iceberg. Instead of focusing and taking that personal, to stay composed, I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? I stay in the prefrontal lobes of my brain. I go from the emotional, oh, that what's going on? And I'm not triggered. I'm not taking it personal. I'm seeing the behavior for what it is. And I'm looking at what's below the water on that iceberg. What's driving that behavior? Because kids are not people. I'm going to take it past kids. People are not trying to be assholes if they're being a jerk to you. I'm just going to throw that out there. This has helped me so much in so many relationships in my life when I've had to deal with adults that are difficult, because I have a lot of empathy. I think, wow, what's going on for them that they feel the need, or so scared that they're treating me in this way, or blaming me, or talking to me in this way. In some cases, my empathy has been greater than my discernment. So that is something too. But I'm able to not take other people's behavior personal. And in order to do that, that first step is staying composed, walking away and stopping and pausing, or just staying composed long enough to think about how a better way to respond or react. So that's the first step, is composure. And that part of that is not taking that behavior personal and not seeing it as attack on you or disrespect towards you. Kids lack skills. And let's think about this. If we're reacting and yelling at a child and telling them to stop yelling, are we modeling the behavior we want? No. And I've talked a lot about this. What we do sets more of an expectation for our kids than what we say. So the behavior and how we live sets the greater expectation. They watch us more than they listen to us. So if you're holding the door for people, if you're saying please and thank you, if you're being kind to your servers in the restaurant, if you're smiling at people in public and in stores, or if someone's rude to you, if someone does something. I remember somebody flicked me off. This little lady like totally cut me off. And years ago, I might have been triggered and been like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. Why is she But you know what? I looked at her. I was grateful. At first, I start with gratitude. This helps me change my own limiting beliefs and thought process. My first thought was, I'm grateful we didn't have an accident. My second thought is, that's somebody's grandmother. That is somebody's grandmother. God love her for still driving. My third thought is, I hope she can be safe. I hope she's safe. God love her. Like, why am I going to take it personal? Why am I going to let her behavior, and it's not even malicious, she was getting mad at me. That's her problem. Cranky little old lady, fine. But you know what? Why am I going to let someone else have the power over how I feel and how I react? No, I'm not going to give my power away. And it just takes practice. And the second thing, so the first thing is composure. The second thing, which I'm alluding to, is mindset. Your mindset will 100% reflect how you respond to a situation. So if your mindset is the child's being disrespectful, you're going to respond as if that behavior is an attack on you. If your mindset is that that's a bad kid, maybe it's another kid that's been picking on your kid at school, then your response is going to reflect that. But if we can change your mindset and you can see all people's behavior as something that's not about you, it doesn't have anything to do with you. People's behavior is all about them and what's going on with them. And if we can detach from other people's behavior, we can see it totally different. And it is very helpful throughout this process. And it does take time. It takes time because we've grown up and become adults that have limiting beliefs. We all have them. So we kind of have to undo some things. If we believe that they're just pushing, I know a lot of people say, well, they're just pushing my buttons. Your kids aren't pushing your buttons. Your kids either want to connect with you, they want attention, and they don't care whether it's negative or positive, or they are frustrated, or there's something going on. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but my recording, I'm laughing. There's like fireworks going off. I don't know. Anyway, okay, Craig, cut that out. That was weird. I don't know why the video is showing all these things. Okay. So not taking things personal and changing your mindset when you view behavior is huge and essential. It's an essential part of this whole process. So composure, mindset, those are the first two things. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is stop telling your kids. Stop telling them what they're doing wrong. Stop telling them they're being disrespectful. Stop telling them the empty threats, right? Empty threats. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but that's when we say, well, if you continue to do this, you're in a situation where maybe you can't follow through on a consequence, or you just don't follow through on a consequence. I'm going to take your phone for 3 weeks if you do this. You're not going anywhere today if you do this. But when it comes, because you're in fight or flight and you're trying to think of the harshest consequence you can instill on your child, right? But when it comes down to it, and when you're calm and you're thinking, you don't follow through. So what happens is two things. One, the child doesn't trust you. And sometimes maybe you follow through on the consequences, and sometimes they don't. So that's very confusing. So they don't trust you. They don't respect you because they know and they're going to continue with the behavior because they know they have a 50-50 shot of you not following through on the consequence. So there's no motivation for them to change the behavior. Whereas if you instill consequences from a rational place in your brain, so if you're composed and you approach it with the correct mindset, you're going to come up with a consequence. You're going to be thinking, am I going to be able to follow through with this? Do I want to follow through with this? These are the things I think about. And what makes sense based on the behavior. We don't want, often I was a teacher for years, and parents would drop their kids off at preschool and they're upset and they're crying. They're like, just be good today and we'll go to Target after school. That's an extrinsic motivation. Don't do it. It's not sustainable. We don't want kids to behave for things. We want kids to be intrinsically motivated to do the right thing. And how do we do that? With appropriate consequences. And in the situation where it's something positive, like go be at school, it's like you want to tell them you're safe. You're safe. You're going to be safe. You're going to have fun with your friends. I love you. I'm going to see you in how many hours? And you just remind them that they're safe, they're loved, they're cared for, they're going to see friends, they're going to have fun, and it's going to be okay. Because this gives kids coping skills. And it intrinsically motivates them to have fun. And I can assure you, parents, the longer you linger at that drop off, the harder it is on your child. The quicker you get through that drop off, the easier it is on your child. And they are fine when you walk away. That's more about you because you feel guilty that your child is sad. It's okay for your child to be sad. They're going to be fine. They're going to be safe. As long as you know they're in a safe environment and you feel good about that, which I imagine you wouldn't be taking them there if they didn't, if you didn't feel confident in that. But you want to just remind them and reassure them, empathize with them. It's hard. I know you miss mommy, but mommy's going to come back or daddy's going to come back. And you're going to have so much fun. And maybe you start building it up on the way to school. What are you excited about today? What are you going to do today? Will you make me a card? And if you know that's a struggle, they can go make you a card when they're there and tell you how much they miss you. So there's a lot of ways, but we want kids to be intrinsically motivated. And we want consequences to match the behavior. Another example of a consequence matching the behavior. So maybe your child's being disrespectful and you're like, I'm just going to take your phone. You're being so disrespectful, right? The consequence doesn't totally match the behavior, but I can show you how you can still take the phone, but tie the consequence to the behavior. And it looks like this. I'm in the cognitive processing center. I'm not taking the behavior personal. I'm composed, I'm calm. My mindset and my beliefs are that, wow, they need some support with their emotional regulation. I notice that you've been on your phone a lot, and the more you're on your phone, the more disrespectful you are towards me. So what I'm noticing is that we need to limit that time. So I'm going to have to take your phone away if this behavior continues. And what that's going to look like is you'll get the phone during these hours of the day and it'll be with me the rest of the day. So now you've established boundaries. What you notice, and you're noticing the behavior. Use the word I see or I notice because it's judgment free. It's just what you see. This works in the workplace too. So if you work in a business, if you run a business, notice your employees' behavior. Don't judge it. If you do that, the response will be they will be much more receptive to feedback and coaching. When you notice behavior, the child is open to hearing you. So, and then the next thing. So we have composure, we have mindset, and stop telling kids. Notice the behavior, ask some questions. Do you think you're being respectful? What's going on? When you talk to me that way, does that make me want to be helpful towards you? Um, when you're hurtful and hit mommy, does that make mommy want to play the game with you? You just, do you think I want to play with you more or less? Is that helpful or hurtful? Helpful or hurtful is a great thing with the little ones. Are you saying that to be helpful or hurtful? Because it makes them reflect on the intent of what they're saying and it makes them notice what they're saying. Because again, kids are just reacting. It's not personal. So when little kids, when they do something hurtful or say something, maybe they swat you or hit you, instead of getting triggered, oh, that's scary. Notice. Wow, that hurt. And you can exaggerate. Wow, that hurt mommy. That hurt daddy. Do we hit? Is that hurtful or helpful when we hit? Is that hurtful or helpful when we say someone's stupid? One of my kids called me a butthead at the Target checkout line. And again, I was triggered because my kid's being disrespectful to me in public in front of people I don't know. And people judge. People judge. You gotta let them. Let them. I just posted that quote on Facebook and Instagram. Let them. You cannot try to control the world around you and what people think. Care more about the impact you're having on your child than what other people think. Think about that too. What's more important? Something, the cashier or the person behind you online judging you, or the impact you have on your child? And it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. Let it go. Let them judge you. Because if you're doing what's right, then you just know. It doesn't matter. Don't try to control the narrative. So, composure, mindset, stop telling, start asking questions so you can have conversation with your child. And the great thing about that is anytime we're having conversation with our child, we're connecting with them. We're connecting with them. People want to feel seen. They want to feel heard. They want to feel understood. And that's what's happening. And then they feel safe. They feel safe to have big feelings. They feel like it's okay to have these big feelings. They don't feel shamed for it. But we're going to coach them on better ways to respond and react. So stop telling and start asking. Those are the next two steps. Ask questions with teenagers. Like my son had people over, a mess was made. There weren't great choices made. So we had to talk about that the next day. And he knew I didn't have to say anything. I said, okay, so tell me about last night. What worked? What didn't? What was wrong with that? What could you have done differently next time? And then if he's not telling me, if I'm not hearing all the things I know that went wrong, I'd be like, do you think that's everything that went wrong? Or is there more? Again, I'm not going to tell him. I want him to have to go back and think about it. Because if he thinks about it and he has to process it, he's going to remember it. And then we're going to talk about what we could do differently. Well, and what consequences look like? Well, what do you think the consequence for that should be? And we go from there. And when my kids run into issues with friends, because that happens, they come home and tell me, and I'm like, well, What do you think you could do to handle it? Do you think you have a part in this? Have you been kind? Have you been helpful? I don't just take my kid's word for it and think my kid's this perfect kid and put them on a pedestal, because my kid is human just like me and they are not perfect. People are flawed by nature, and expecting perfection is not a realistic expectation. And I never want my kids to feel like they have to be perfect. Again, be better than yesterday. So when I'm helping them navigate these things, I'm also trying to help them understand their role in it. And then what do you think would be fair? How would you feel if someone treated you that way? And then sometimes somebody's just being mean to them. So then we talk about that too. But instead of me telling them, I'm asking them questions because I want my kids to develop their own discernment. And I want my kids to be able to cope. I want my kids to be able to problem solve. And I want them to be solution focused, not poor me, stuck in the problem. Nobody likes me. Everybody's mean to me. Victim, victim, victim. Nope. Nope. That is a trigger for me. And you guys will hear me say that often. There, there are definitely times when people are a victim, but there are a lot of people out there in the world that play the victim. And that is not what I want for my kids. I want my kids that to know they have power, a lot of it. And it comes in how we respond. It comes in how we react. It comes in the form of what we say. So I want my kids to feel powerful and empowered to solve their problems. And I think they do. My son just yesterday called me and he was having an issue with a kid. And he goes, "Hey," he goes, "Mom, I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the party because I can talk to him. I'm going to get there early because they're in high school and I'm sure there's drinking before anyone drinks anything. That way I can," and I'm not saying I condone drinking, but I appreciate that. And I understand that kids are going to find where there's a will, there's a way, right? I don't have some unrealistic expectation that that's never going to happen in high school. But we talk about the safety aspect of that. But that's beside the point. He was actually thinking when he needed to get to the party. So it was the best time to talk to this kid in case something like that happened. Not saying that it was, but in case that was going to happen. And then he talked through with me what he was going to say to him. And he also took ownership in this disagreement between the two of them. He goes, "Well, I'm willing to do this." I go, "It sounds to me like you're willing to meet him halfway." And I think that's a good plan. And then I said, "But what if he's not on board with that plan? Then what? What are you going to do? What are you going to do if it escalates? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this?" So we just kind of walked through all the different scenarios, and he had a great head on his shoulders, and he was confident in solving his own problem. And I was really proud of him for that. So, composure, mindset, stop telling, start asking, have conversations because you can build connection. And then lastly, coaching them. This opens up the door for coaching. You are their coach, you are their guide. Think of parenting as being a guide. You want to guide them on working through their problems, the options they have. If they make this choice, this might happen. If they make this choice, this might happen. And with little kids too. If you choose not to share, I never force sharing with little kids. People will just take the toy and hand it to another kid. How would you like that if you were working with the material and somebody just took it from you as an adult and handed it to somebody else? That's not realistic. That's not real world. Don't make your kids share. Talk to them. How do you feel when people don't share with you? Well, do you think you could share this material when you're finished with it? Or how, just again, navigating that conversation and teaching them empathy and allowing them to decide, and then teaching them what the consequence is. If you choose not to share, next time they have the material, if they get here before you, they may not want to share it with you. So think about that. It's totally up to you. But I just want you to think about it and think through all of the scenarios and consequences. So anyway, hopefully this helps. I just kind of wanted to break down some of the basics. So we've got composure. So be calm, pause, mindset, change your beliefs. Don't take it personal. Stop telling your kids what they're doing wrong. Start asking and coach them, teach them, guide them. and do it from a place that's not judgmental. So notice behavior, see behavior for what it is. Remember, the tip of the iceberg is just what you see. The important part's what's below. You got to uncover what's below with any person. You got to know the why behind behavior. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I look forward to talking with you guys again soon. Have a great day, night. I don't know what time you're listening, and again, if you're liking the content, please like and follow. As soon as my website is ready, I will be uploading that because I will be available to do consulting and speaking to large and small groups. If you're in the local area, and you have a group of parents you want to invite over to your house, I can come and do a small group session for parents too. And I will somewhat customize that. That's something new that I'm going to do. So I'm super excited about that. So consulting, speaking, and podcasting. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I look forward to talking with you all again soon. So start using that toolbox. And if you have any questions or specific things, feel free to reach out. All my contact information is in the show notes. Take care.